So, hey everyone, I'm Fiona. I'm here with my friend Thomas, and I've known Thomas for probably like 7 years. And yeah, we have a lot of mutual friends. And in this video, we want to talk about, or he is going to talk a little about his journey as an electronic music producer and also working with, I guess, a producer that he really admires. And then also kind of like your path, your journey as a DJ. So yeah, do you want to say anything else?
Well, if I may just kind of talk briefly about how long I've been in and around electronic music. Of course, when I was young, I started learning about it by way of friends and the rave scene that was happening in San Francisco area at the time. And it was pretty interesting starting out all new sorts of stuff happening, and the music wasn't actually that new. It was kind of derived around the late 80s and early 90s, the sound that I was listening to. But it took me probably a handful of years to realize what I was really most interested in, which is hardcore and jungle music. So long story short, I always stayed interested in that music, and I kind of started collecting records around 2000 timeframe and DJ'd just mainly for myself because it was a fun thing to do with my friends while I was, going to help support the scene that was happening around that time. And then I joined the Marine Corps. So I went and did that. And probably for the first 3-ish or 4 years, I didn't really have anything to do with my records or my vinyl or my DJ setup or anything like that. But then I never stopped listening to music, of course. I slowly started collecting vinyl again. And there was a dip in terms of the popularity of the music. But I started realizing that vinyl was becoming popular again, particularly in the past 4 to 5 years. And that kind of coincided with something else that we'll talk about in a little while with the music production and how I really started digging into that. But this label called Night Force was one of the labels that I was always following. And so slowly started delving back into it and collecting vinyl again. And then there's a radio website that I also DJ on once a week. And so, yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell.
Awesome.
But without like all the detail, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. And then we wanted to kind of, I guess you were going to share like a song or a few songs that you're kind of working on, I guess. Or
I can share some progress on a remix that I'm working on at the moment. Been working through some of the very early parts of it, trying to figure out what direction it's going to go, even though it's a remix, So yeah, I would be happy to talk about that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So in terms of the electronic music, it's so popular right now, and it's continuing to grow in popularity because of the connectivity of the internet, right? So whereas some industries have been hurt by like the pandemic and have been finding different ways to have to do what they do, I guess it's been unique in that the electronic music scene has sort of rallied together and sort of started to flourish, and in new ways. There's been multiple artists that I followed for years that didn't make music for probably 10 years that are back out of retirement and making music again. And so it's kind of neat to see, and also because of the connectivity of the internet, be a part of in a unique way that I wasn't previously. So it's something I really like.
And platforms like Twitch, so people can like stream their DJ sets and stuff like that.
Yeah. I for one, I have a Twitch, and I'm more of a like to just play the music kind of guy. So I don't typically get on the live streaming. I have done it. I've done it for special occasions. Someone will ask me to do it. And maybe when I move and make my studio like a nicer looking space, I'll start to do that more frequently. But over the course of the year, that's the direction that it's going. Like the popularity of that has become so integral in terms of supporting yourself and the music. So
Right. No, I've definitely noticed that very much, that electronic music in general has really kind of become like the forefront of the music scene.
yeah.
And it's kind of weird because, like, you know, I'm also a live, I perform live, you know, music live. And so there's a lot of like anger towards, I kind of do both. I also do electronic music. There's a lot of anger towards a lot of DJs and electronic music people, just because they're like, oh, you're taking away all the jobs of live musicians, you know. But I think it's like, you know, you got to look at what the market is needing. What are they wanting from the music scene? And I think that musicians have to be able to adapt to all of that.
There's definitely some consideration. And what I would certainly confess to, you know, I'm a layman in terms of what my musical comprehension is. I would never try and claim that I know anything that there is to know about musical theory or any of that kind of stuff. I admire it, and I've tried to understand it as the years have, you know, progressed for me in terms of my musical journey. But like if I were to try and spot something by ear, I could never pick that up. But I think that's the beauty of music, you know, it's always coming to understand different aspects of it. And as long as it's shared, for me, that's been the lasting thing, you know.
Right. Well, there is, I do, because you taught me how to do beat matching many years ago with the techniques, the SL1200s. And that's like hard to do. That's like, you have to have a good internal sense of your rhythm of listening to two songs simultaneously.
Yeah.
And like on one ear, you hear one song, on the other, you have the other song, and you're trying to like match them up. And that's like takes skill. Like I remember like you kind of teaching me some of the effects and stuff. And I was just like, this is harder than it looks. People think that like DJs, electronic music people, they just push a button. I mean, I remember Aphex Twin, I heard a story of a friend where they went to see Aphex Twin live, and he was basically like just pushed the button to play his music and just read the newspaper and sipped his coffee, because it's like,
wild.
Oh, how
never
could I
think that
live?
You'd never think he'd be doing that. I know he has the ability to DJ. I've seen him do it, but I remember in the early days trying to figure that out for myself. A friend of mine, he had the turntables and I had the records. So I would bring them to his house, and for hours and hours, we would just go back and forth, you know, for as long as we could manage, trying to sort it out in our brains. And that train wrecking sound, you know, the crunching of the beats and all that, so yeah, I'm striving to keep the music at an even keel. But as you get into it, you know, and you start to gain more experience and understand that the beat matching is only one aspect of it, you start to understand as well that harmonic mixing becomes sort of something that will drive the flow of the mix, and as well as looking at the crowd and kind of figuring out what they want to hear and knowing what songs to play when. So I used to try and plan out what I want to play and think so hard about all of that stuff. But now I'll just maybe grab some music. I won't even think about it. I'll just play from one song to the next, how I feel, and based off of what people are, you know, kind of registering what they want to hear. So.
Right. Well, I do think there's an art to it. I mean, what you said about like harmonic, you're talking about like the key that a certain piece is in, and then you can also pitch shift it. So that's like music theory. That's like shifting, you know, modulating to one key to another key. And then I just think that, you know, because I have a friend who did a lot of DJing, and I remember just the songs that he chose created this arc of just like the story unfolding. And I remember because it was like a Halloween party and it went on until like 4 a.m. in the morning. And at 4 a.m. in the morning, it was like they were doing an Ali Akbar Khan like raga or something. And
Oh,
it was so perfect because it was like the sun was rising, and it was just like, this is the music that people do, Indian classical music.
yeah.
And
I
just like
love
it
it.
went through everything, like so many different styles of music. And then it ended with that. I just thought that was so like just the choices that you guys have to do, and
Yeah.
amazing.
Um, I kind of started to pick up on that early on, and it was fascinating because you don't know in the beginning what songs will sound well with one another, especially as you're learning the music. But that was one of the early kind of fascinations for me. Okay, now I can make one song the same tempo as another, but then you realize, oh gosh, that sounds really good with this song. So you kind of remember that.
Mm.
But now, of course, the technology lends to that as well, and so you have the circle of fifths, the key, the wheel or whatever, so to speak, and in this music app called Serato, that's what I use to DJ mix on my controller when I'm not using the Technics. Um, it basically has all the songs in key, so you can see, uh,
Mm.
and you start to kind of understand even still which songs would sound better, because you could still pick a song that's like in key and it sounds bad. So
Oh.
that's also a consideration too. You got to be aware still of what songs go well with one another, but definitely like always working towards the flow of the overall mix, because you want to provide a journey, you want it to have a direction, you want it to build and then kind of know when to have a crescendo, so yeah, that's definitely
Mm.
my mindset all the time.
Right. And that's a really good point of like, I remember going to in Oakland, they had like the dance church thing, forget what it's called, but they would always start like really ambient, really slow. And then it would, 3 hours in, it would start working up and getting faster and faster and just more busy. So I guess like how do you contrast like one song to another so that you're like, otherwise if it's just like loud, 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 busy all the time, then people kind of get desensitized to that, right? So do you have to
Mhm.
kind of drop the energy? You have to kind of know when, and that's when you kind of will like use different effects, right? Like things to like slow down the music or focus on a certain maybe a certain cell or a certain measure or a certain couple of beats in a particular song and just like freeze that moment or really develop that
Yeah,
moment.
you can absolutely do all of that different stuff. One of the guys that is a good friend of mine, he really likes to use what they call a roll. So he'll get maybe an 8-bar loop
Mm.
of a song, and he's constantly previewing it into the mix before the new song will come in. So you kind of pick up on different stuff. So there's, yeah, lots of different effects and ways that you can, or you can sample in other songs and or slice up the beats. Yeah, so it's endless, really.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right, right. And so Serato is kind of like, do you use that? Have you tried using Ableton Live? Because I've heard that one also works well.
I do have Ableton Live. I don't know how to use it. I like to use it for production purposes,
Mhm.
but I can see how you can produce a live PA on it very easily, and especially if you have hardware, makes it so easy to be able to activate everything that you're. Have you done that before?
I use Ableton. I've seen Serato being used, but I've seen where because it has the colors and it shows like the verse, chorus, which is really helpful. It shows the BPM. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like brilliant. It kind of takes out all the guesswork.
Yeah.
Does it make you lazy? Because I remember when you were showing me how to beat match with the techniques tables, it was like that was a skill. Like you
Yeah.
had practice with that.
That brings up a very interesting aspect of what I've seen in the DJ community. So older DJs that learn the old school hardcore way where they have to beat match, they think that the younger crowd that doesn't use the technology that they had back in the day, they use the controllers and the easy way or whatever.
Right.
And I think it's just a matter of what you provide to the audience more than how, because I do use both, but that is a fear of mine too. I don't want to forget how to beat match. Not that you do, but you know, if you aren't constantly around it or going back to it, then the skill is like riding, well, not like riding a bike. You know, it kind of it's hard to maintain. Yeah, so you have to keep the ear for it.
Right. It's like kind of using a calculator versus doing math with piece of paper and pencil.
Yeah.
I guess there was one point where I was like, oh my God, I think I forgot how to divide. Because I just used calculators so much. So I was just like, became reliant on that. But I think whatever is most effective, I think it's good to kind of have that knowledge of the source of like how it used to be done is really important. So I kind of think both, it's good to know both ways, but like be efficient, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure. So I can show you a little bit about this remix that I'm working on. If you'd like to see it.
Let's do that.
Let me try and pull this up here so that I don't know if you guys can see that there.
Yes.
Okay, so this is Cubase. I really like to use Cubase. It's what I learned with from the beginning. And granted, most of what I'm doing right now is just focusing on getting some of the beat patterns that I'm going to be using for the overall song. Mm-hmm. And then I was also trying to sort out the piano, which for me is a very long, laborious process, even though it's super easy. I have to get it right. So, but I think I had managed to do it. So, and I was writing, I'm trying to figure out where the direction of this is going to go. I have as well, let me see here. So I have like a reference track of the original, just so that I can kind of keep my ears about what I would like to do. And I've really sort of just sorting out different ideas, and hopefully something will come together, and that provides the catalyst for me pushing this song towards completion.
Ah, awesome. So the reference track is the original song, and then you're doing the remix. So you're kind of taking the same rhythm and harmonic structure and melody, and then just redoing it, messing with it, kind of making it your own.
Yeah, actually, and yes. So the interesting thing that I with this song, it actually was sampling a large portion of another song, and I didn't know the source for a long time, and I was trying to figure it out, and I couldn't. It was tough. It was just not coming up. And then offhand, one of my friends, he knew, so that kind of brought me back into the project. Like, oh, it's go time. Let's do this. And because it kind of reinvigorated my interest in making this happen, because I had already had this project at hand for a little bit, but I didn't get anywhere with it. So that's kind of how it goes for me sometimes. And I never push on a project. Right. I don't like to do that, because if I'm not inspired, then I'm not gonna make music in the way that I feel it would because I understand the difference between discipline and then inspiration. For me, is very different. So in terms of my discipline, right, I want to put myself around some form of electronic music making, at least weekly, given my job responsibilities, right? I try to do something, if I'm really diligent, then yeah, I'm around something. But if I'm not inspired, then I'm not going to be making music in the way that I can look back on it and be like, I'm satisfied with it. So that's kind of where my mindset goes. Yeah. But if you can see, so with this particular project, I'll just kind of zoom here and show you what I've done. Is this going to record the music if I have it playing?
It should. Do you have the output of Cubase going to, we could maybe just try playing it, and then we can adjust.
So I'll just put So let me see here. These are a bunch of different breaks, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can kind of see how I start to layer different sounds of breaks. And then eventually what they'll do, it will one large, right? If you can see, right, I just really started out with one break, and I decided that that was going to be like sort of the main break, and then I'd build around it, and then I'd build to more complex things for later parts of the song and whatnot. And then that's when you get in variation and automation and obviously the other instruments and all that. But that's sort of how I do it. I very diligently cut up all of the different breaks.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of work to do it that way, right? That's like really detailed, like layering them and kind of knowing what you want. Because this is like 13 or 14 tracks.
Yeah, but really in all, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 different breaks that I've used, and I just parse them into kicks and snares with some of the other separated percussion parts, so that way, I can line them up nicely and keep them tight and organized for myself. Just for I haven't colored anything yet, so that way I have. This is very early on in terms of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is just a simple thing, right? But some of the other things I was trying to do was sort out the piano. That was a definite kick 'em the pants.
Was that the song that you texted me about?
Yeah.
Like, oh
Yeah, and I know you're probably thinking, oh well, this is such a simple sounding piano, right? But for me,
but it's the effects though, because I remember it was like a heavy delay on it, and it was like there's a lot that's like making it unclear. So it's like some of the notes are kind of being blended in, and I'm like, was that like from an effect, or is that actually played? So that's where it makes it a little bit tricky.
Yep. And then I would say that so yeah, I would say it's about where I need it to be in terms of it being simple, so I can sort of deconstruct it to reconstruct it and then make it what I want it to be for the song once it's
Right. So you kind of start with the chord progression, and then like, what are some ways that you do kind of deconstruct stuff? Like, I'm curious, you want to share any of your secrets?
So, well, I'll just use the two parts to kind of give you an example. So the bass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So make my own bass, but make it nice and kind of similar. I want to say exactly the same, but similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then
variation of what's there.
Mm-hmm. So mainly what I'm looking for is the bass, the piano, and then the stab pattern, which I'll show you where is right here. Right here. So those 3 main things will be the drivers for essentially for what my remix becomes. I'm going to deconstruct those things and kind of rethink them, and then it will ultimately help me figure out where this track is going to go. And I have some ideas. I just haven't really gotten into the thick of it yet. But I'm excited for it.
Right. So it's more kind of like experimenting, but I like that you boiled it down to those 3 elements. Like you kind of rather than getting, into too many details. It's like these three elements. And I know just like from composition, it's just like if you can focus on like limiting yourself, that's like a really good thing to put on yourself to kind of, otherwise, if you have too many options, it's like going to the store and like having 50 different types of peanut butter versus if there's only like 2 types of peanut butter. It's gonna be.
I'm very guilty of it because I'm all definitely just trying to experiment to figure out what I feel sounds good, but and it's very easy to do that. But yeah, I found that I work well with parameters, so that's what I do now. I didn't do that before, but I really started making progress when I set parameters for myself. Kind of drives creativity in a different way that I didn't expect before.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it forces you to kind of think differently with your resources.
Oh, for sure.
Versus otherwise, people tend to kind of do the same thing over and over again if they're just not aware of, if they're able to use the same things, over and over again. So yeah, how long does it normally take for you to kind of finish a remix, finish a song? Like
this song, I was working on it for only about a week and a half now.
Oh wow.
And this one I'll probably finish a little bit faster, probably less than a month. But I try not to push it, and I know that sounds like a long time to some other people, but it's just how I work. It's just with everything else that I do, and again, I don't like to push anything, but also if I do get inspired, then it happens even faster. So
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And then inspiration, what are your inspirations that help to kind of inspire you with your music?
Oh, particularly when I start to feel like I've made a progress that I kind of obsess over it. Like I'll go to sleep thinking about it, and then I'll wake up realizing, oh, okay, I've got to go spend a few minutes at least before I leave for work to make sure that I add something, or that's kind of, yeah, I think that's primarily what it is. When I feel like I've made the steps to sort of drive it home, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna go back to this. And I never thought that I would go become a music producer. But in a way, it was like a logical step after having been a DJ for such a long time.
Right.
And the way that it happened was very kind of funny for me. So being in the military has provided me lots of different unique opportunities that I never thought I would be able to get. And particularly living in Virginia, where I was stationed last, one of my all-time favorite music producers, he lived in North Carolina. So the guy from Night Force, the Night Force owner, his name is Chris Howell. He's a super awesome fella. He's British. They moved back to the UK. But he was living in North Carolina, and it was just close enough for me to be able to drive to him and be able to work with him. And it took me a little bit to kind of work up the nerve to ask if it was even possible. But he had worked with many people in the past, and so it wasn't sort of a new thing for him. And he just said, yeah, well, we don't know if we'll actually get along. Sometimes that is a huge aspect to making music together. If you don't get along, then it wouldn't be possible. I said, well, okay. So initially he just asked, for engineering fees essentially. And I said, okay, that's no problem. I totally understand that. And then I went to his studio, which is really cool. And I kind of learned through osmosis in all my times going to his studio. And it was like such an automatic thing watching him, you know, with his hands and clicking of the mouse and the developing of the melodies and the breaks. And I was like blown away. And granted, I just brought my ideas to him. And then between the two of us, we kind of brought everything together, and he just, you know, laid it all out. And it was amazing to see. But the first time going there to make that happen worked out really, really well. And so in all, we ended up making a total of like 6 songs together. And they were all released on Night Force in some capacity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so then I am indebted to him in his willingness to give me an opportunity to become part of Night Force. And so that's sort of where I feel like I've going to keep continuing and doing it, because it's just, you do it and then you get new ideas and then it never stops.
Right. How inspiring though that you got to work with him and kind of learn.
Yeah.
You're just watching. I mean, could you potentially still work with him online, or is it not the same?
Yeah, I know that eventually I'm gonna go to the UK and have a chance to work with him again. And I think there's a bunch of other people that I hope to work with in the future as well. Like I said, with the advent of this musical blossoming, you know, those opportunities are gonna come again. And like one of the more unique ones that I never expected happen was when I moved back to San Francisco. So a really nice fella by the name of Ben Hayes, who's from Australia, he came on a work contract to come to the United States. So he was working and living in San Francisco, and, you know, again, connected to the music that we love, the old school rave, hardcore, jungle music. It was like a mutual friend, and he said, "Oh, you need to connect with my friend. He's gonna be in San Francisco." So I said, "Okay, sure," you know. And it was pretty neat because it was like one of the only nights I've gone out at all in San Francisco, because, you know, pandemic and all that craziness.
Right.
But we're actually going to watch Chris and another Night Force guy play at DNA Lounge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I met up with Ben, and we were just meeting for the first time and talking. And then we watched Chris and Glenn play, and that was nice. And then I started talking to him about making music. And so then me and Ben ended up making a total of, I think we made 3 or 4 tracks together. Just fun. One of them was also released on Night Force, and then we have my own label that I'm actually going to have a vinyl release in the coming year. It's been a long time because we have to talk about vinyl. So with the popularity of vinyl,
right,
unfortunately, so big labels come around and then push their clout down on the smaller labels and take priority over the, you know, industry.
right.
So it's kind of made these unfortunate delays in the vinyl industry. And a lot of people are waiting months and months and months to get these vinyls out the door that have been made.
Right.
The music's been made. People have heard them online for a long time. But yeah, so the Hello Jungle label is my ode to San Francisco.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, you know, all of my, you know, growing into the music and then kind of hopefully having an opportunity to give back to it and continue to give back to it. And so that's kind of why I decided to make Hello Jungle.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I mean, so the point of doing your own label is to have full control over the music that you're releasing. And
yeah, definitely. Because I produce under Mr. Arthur, which the name I was given, you know, and anytime I would go to Night Force, I would make my music as Mr. Arthur. but then I want to have my own opportunities to explore different aspects of experimentation musically and whatnot. So that's another reason why I made Hella Jungle, so I could be under a different producer name and enjoy that too. Because that's pretty typical, I would say, for a producer.
Right, like Richie Houghton has many aliases, right? So different kind of, almost like a different band in a way, different project.
I don't want to get too many aliases, but I just, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Yeah, I think we're kind of close to the end. So I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share with us, music wise, or advice, or any of your wisdom, anything that you want to share.
I'm gonna open a synth that I've been waiting to open.
Okay.
Because I just got it. I know this is kind of silly. Last bit thing.
A hardware synth or a software synth?
Hardware synth.
Oh, nice.
It's called the Modal 8X.
Oh.
And it's gonna help me produce the stab sounds for this remix that I've been. I have another of their. I'm not trying to plug them at all, but I really like the sounds that they produce. Modal Craft Synth. This is kind of like a little module, but it has a little, and then you can produce your own sounds. That's kind of nice. And then this over here, I can slide it out. There she be.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, cool. Yeah, tell us a little bit about this.
Oh, so it's got some really lush sounds. I don't know if you know what the Juno, the old Juno is like.
Yeah.
Beautiful pad sounds. It can produce real nice heavy Moog style bass. I'm looking to create some nice stabby sounds.
Right.
But yeah, that's
exciting. So
I'm excited for it. So gonna hook it up and experiment with it, and then get on with that tune. So
awesome. Very cool. Do you ever use software synths where you kind of like build the synth from scratch, like through Absinthe is one software synth.
I do know of Absinthe. I'm not as into FM synthesis as I know of it, but I like to I have like Roland and Moog and Korg sounds like VSTs that I've used as well, just because I'm kind of more like, okay, how do I get what I want, But that's also why I did start getting into hardware, because then that consideration comes around where you really have hands-on play.
I totally agree. There's something about using faders and knobs and just having it like as a standalone instrument that just makes it so much more, I don't know, it just feels more real.
You have well more control.
Right.
I feel can produce the sound. It's more tactile, I guess. Yeah,
but also like if you want to like go somewhere and play, I mean, you have to bring your laptop with you and stuff like that, and your laptop might crash. I've seen that at shows where people like they're about to play and then their laptop doesn't work, or Ableton keeps shutting down, crashing. So yeah, a computer can kind of be a bit sensitive and fussy.
I just use the DJ software on my laptop. I stopped doing that a long time ago, like with the DAWs. So, but I would die, I think, if like I went to go try and play a show live and then my computer's like, no, buddy, not today. I was like, oh.
Right. Well, it's cool. I mean, a lot of the stuff can be done from home too. So
Yeah.
Streamed with the internet and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
anyways, okay, I think we're kind of at the end. So thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing everything.
Thank you for having. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah. And then where can people find your music and find you? I know you also do photography. You're an amazing photographer.
I just like to do photography for fun nowadays, but you can find me on Night Force Radio every Sunday right now at 10 o'clock in the morning for the West Coast people. I know it's a little bit early, but I'm there always on Sundays. And what I would say about that is we're going to be producing a lot more awesome stuff. That website's going to grow over the course of this coming year. And so it's going to be really neat to see. And not just me, like anyone on Night Force Radio, that is an awesome website that will continue to get better and better. Future projects on Night Force, future projects on Hella Jungle. I'm just a regular guy making music.
Yeah, that's awesome. So definitely I'll put the links below so people can check out your music and your stuff. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Fiona.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.